Hey, it's Ted here. I'm out in my workshop and it's the end of a really hot summer day. And I'm looking at somebody's lower unit and got to do a water pump job. Not a big deal. Gear lube looks clean, but here's one of those things that I wanted to point out that I see often. And it's something that's not good. It puts a lot of side load and vibration into a lower unit, which can cause seals to fail prematurely. So if you're working on your own outboard, that's cool, but here's something that you want to make sure that is correct. And let me show you. All right, so here's the lower unit in question, and here's the propeller, and this is what I'm going to focus in on. I've propped it up a little bit so you can see it. So this is a Yamaha, and it has a cotter pin in it, and that's bent over. It's bent over properly. Everything's good. The nut was probably tight when it was first installed, but here's the issue. There's a torque spec for every nut and every lower unit, especially with Mercury with their new hubs. This is from the 90s, and there's a plastic insert hub on Mercury's, and I'm just pointing this out on this one. This nut should never be loose. So they got, they installed the propeller and they tightened this down. It's a Castle nut, by the way, and they tightened it down until they could line up the cotter pin. And that's okay, but what you need to do is you need to actually physically put a piece of wood between here and the lower unit cavitation plate. This is the cavitation plate. Put a piece of wood there, get a breaker bar, or better yet, a torque wrench. If you know the torque spec and you got a torque wrench, tighten it up until you just get to that, it's snug, and then at least tighten it up to the next flat where that goes in. In Mercury's, it's critical. You have to torque that nut. And then what they want you to do, because it's a plastic hub insert, they want you to torque it again later after you run the boat. So here's the scenario. This propeller will rock back and forth, side to side. Now, it's going to be driven forward, and it's going to line up on the hub. That's okay. But unless it's held in place, when you put it in reverse, it's going to chuck back and forth. So you can hear this. And that means you're going to get excessive wear, A, in the hub of the propeller, and B, the prop shaft. So this is one of those things that's, I see this all the time, and it's a problem. Here's another one. Another one is, this is a fixed diffuser ring. So you can see that this diffuser ring, and it's called a diffuser ring for a reason. That diffuser ring is a separate part of the prop. It's actually fitted on the prop, and it flares outward this way. And what it does is, water's running over the prop. That water comes out this direction. And what it does is it prevents the exhaust gases coming from the hub from rolling back over this lip back into the propeller blades and causing cavitation. So if you see a propeller that's lost this diffuser ring, it may be plastic and old OMCs, this is a Yamaha, this actually is an aluminum piece, but if this diffuser ring has fallen off, then the propeller hub, the outside of the propeller hub, will be flat. It will not have this taper. That's not good. And what's going to happen to the exhaust? It's going to rip back, and it's going to get into here, and it's going to cavitate the blades really bad. Lastly, any imperfections, and this propeller has imperfections in it, as you can see. Any imperfections of grounding or anything is going to mess up the actual flare of the propeller out this way, which we call cupping. So the propeller should be cupped out slightly this way. And any damage to that is going to lead to cavitation. This looks like they just ran it through the sand. Not the end of the world, but if you run it for extended periods of time, what it's going to do, it's going to cavitate the edge of the propeller blades and burn them off. So I'm hoping that, you understand a little bit better about propellers, putting them on, torque. Make sure you find the torque spec for that. If you have a propeller, you don't have the torque spec, bring the nut down till it's snug. You don't have to reef it down till it's snug, and then at least please tighten it to the next point, that next slot. If you have a propeller that does not have a cotter pin in it, you must torque that propeller. You will not know how tight you need to do it. And again, a 2x4 usually works perfect. Put a 2x4 here, scrap piece you got, bring the blade up till it hits the 2x4, and then tighten that propeller down and use a torque wrench on it. Don't just guess. It's, you know, they have to be torqued on the plastic hubs. So there's some, you know, propeller etiquette. And I hope that that helps you a little bit understand, you know, how to put a propeller on. It's critical. We find this too many times in industry where somebody hasn't tightened it up and then it's loose. And then what happens is the propeller vibrates and it makes the shaft move in an oval position. And, you know, then you lose gear lube and water gets in there and it wears the bearings out, and then you need a lower unit. So, another thing is to make sure if you do remove the propeller, which you should every year, look for fishing line behind it, grease it. Please put grease on it. Get some 2,4-C mercury grease, blue grease, Volvo grease, get Yamaha grease, Yamalube grease, Nissan grease, get some marine grade grease. Liberally grease the splines and then put the propeller on. Don't put it on dry. Don't ever use Never Seas. Never Seas has metal in it and it sits up a galvanic couple, and then you can't get the propeller off. So I hope this, you know, helps you understand how to install propellers, remove propellers, torque propellers, grease the shaft, put them back on, what things to look for. So if you like the video, please subscribe, hit that like button. I'll see you in the next one.